Good morning, and welcome to the Church of the River, here in beautiful downtown Memphis, Tennessee. My name is Reverend Sam Teitel, and I have the joy of serving this congregation as minister. Just one quick announcement before we get started this morning, and that is that the Church of the River Board of Trustees has called for a special congregational meeting for Sunday, October 11th. This is going to happen via Zoom immediately following the worship service. Watch for more information that'll be coming via email and announcements very soon. If you would like to learn more about the Church of the River, about what's going on in the life of our congregation, about how you can get more involved, stick around after the worship service today, and there will be announcements that you'll be able to see on your screen. And of course, if you want to stay absolutely up to date, up to the minute with what is going on in the life of our congregation, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Our worship service will now begin. Let's all breathe. We gather, grateful for the bumps in the road, for the trials and tribulations, for the heartbreaks and the headaches. Grateful for the moments when all seemed lost, when it seemed like there was nowhere else to go, and yet we went. Grateful for the moments when we could not go on, and yet we went. Grateful for the moments when those around us who loved us lifted us up and carried us through to where we needed to be. Grateful for the moments when we carried those that we loved. Grateful for the moments when our heartbreaks taught us how loved we are. Grateful for all the moments in our lives that have led us to this place on this day, that we may come together in worship. We light this chalice for the challenge of freedom, the goal of equality, and the warmth of community. May all who gather here offer and find the blessings of acceptance, loving kindness, and a grateful heart. Amen.
Hello. Today is Covenant Sunday. And there are three things that come to my mind when I hear the word covenant. A New Year's celebration, a rainbow, and how to keep promises. A covenant is a promise that people make to each other. And here at the Church of the River, every fall we celebrate that day when we renew our promise to each other. It's sort of like a birthday when we mark time and we remind ourselves that everyone is important in our human family. On Covenant Sunday, we remind each other that this place, this congregation, and the people that gather here are important. When we love something, we naturally want to take care of it. So we promise again every year to take care of our community, our church family, with our time, our talent, and our treasure. Covenant Sunday also reminds me of a rainbow for a couple of reasons. In the stories I heard in church as a child, the rainbow was a symbol of a promise God made to his people, that no matter how scary things got, God would always be with them. It became a symbol of hope. And I think that even now, that's one of the reasons I can get excited when I see a rainbow after a storm. The rainbow is important in our Unitarian Universalist faith for another reason. It represents the promises we make to each other, and a way to remember that is to key each promise to a color of the rainbow. Some of those promises are respecting all people, offering kind treatment to all, yearning to learn, growing together, believing in your ideas, insisting on fair treatment for all, and valuing all the connections we have with all living things. So here we are today, celebrating another year of coming together, promising our best to do our best to keep the promises we make to each other, to do all those things, and to take care of each other in this community. Happy New Year, happy Covenant Sunday. And thank you for reminding me to renew my promise to the Church of the River so that we can all remember that in our community, you are beloved, you are important, and you are powerful.
Today is our third and final testimony as part of this year's Canvas. We are going to hear from two fabulous and active members of our congregation, Dick Scudder and Dan Deshawn, who have some really wonderful words to offer us this morning. So we're grateful to them for that. Here they are.
Hi, I'm Dick Scudder.
And I'm Dan Deshawn.
People get us mixed up all the time.
I'm the nice one.
I'm the funny one. We've been going to the Church of the River since Easter Sunday, 2019.
We were originally invited to check out the Church of the River by our neighbor, Betty Turner.
Hi, Betty.
Hey.
Well, I'm a recovering Catholic. I come from a large Catholic family and went to 12 years of Catholic schools, and somewhere around college I started drifting away, but I always kind of missed the rituals and that. But I never felt like I was a part of any religious community, and I certainly didn't like being told what to believe.
I am a fully recovered Southern Baptist, brought up in a church that told us we were going to go to hell for everything that I really enjoyed, like dancing, drinking, sex, etc. Anyway, at 15, I'd had enough, and I dropped out of organized religion.
My coming out journey 30-some years ago was a painful experience, and it left me estranged from a lot of my family and friends. And to be honest, that sense of estrangement kind of followed me through my life and haunted me for many years.
My coming out process took about 50 years, and when I finally did come out to my family, they were all extremely supportive. As a matter of fact, they told me that we've known that for a long time. I'm glad you finally figured it out.
So let me tell you about our first visit to the Church of the River. We didn't fully understand exactly what UU was about. It was Easter Sunday, and we were sitting in the congregation, and Sam welcomed everybody with the cautionary statement that UUs don't necessarily believe in Jesus as the Savior, that he died and rose from the dead, etc. And I thought I was going to be struck by a lightning bolt right there in the pew.
We both looked at each other and said, "Really? Tell us more."
I think almost immediately we felt a sense of belonging, and I hadn't felt that in years.
We were with people who respected all points of view about God and what really matters in life.
And we were fascinated by the sermons. They were unlike anything we'd ever heard before.
And we loved the view, very calming and meditative.
So we decided to become members.
The last few months have been challenging for everybody, and we sorely miss Sam and our newfound church family, and of course, the view.
Now, we're not big Zoom fans, and we do miss the weekly gatherings.
Now more than ever, it is important for all of us to dig deep, to donate whatever we can during this campaign to keep our wonderful church healthy and thriving.
So that we'll all be able to pick up the thread when it's safe to resume our activities.
So please remember, donate.
Because, cue the fan.
It's a breeze.
It's a breeze! Woo!
And now we're going to hear a word from this year's brilliant and talented Canvas team.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca Johnson, grateful member of Church of the River and part of the Canvas Committee. I just want to thank Amelia and Nina and Alexa and Dick and Don for telling us how important Church of the River is to them. The reason why we include this as part of the canvassing process is because we want to remind everyone why it's so important to still contribute to Church of the River, especially now when we are all so far apart. So what do we do next? Well, things are so complicated during Corona times that the committee wanted to keep it simple. So we are making it a breeze. There are several ways that you can contribute to Church of the River, and this is the perfect year, if you haven't already, to transition to an auto payment through Breeze. Our goal is to move to this platform so we can eliminate an annual drive, since most of the contributions will just be ongoing monthly. You can set up an automatic reoccurring donation via Breeze with either a credit card, a debit card, or an ACH bank transfer. It's totally up to you. It's the easiest and most efficient method. It automatically credits the correct person with the donation, no data entry is needed, and no need to take checks to deposit to the bank. So it's super simple. To get started, all you need to go to the Church of the River website and click on Donate Online. That automatically gets you to Breeze. More details will be in the newsletter, including a link to a tutorial which will answer any questions, and really it takes just about 2 minutes.
Breeze is not the only way to contribute. You can also set up automatic monthly payments through your bank. Just be sure they use our P.O. Box address, which is P.O. Box 683, Memphis, Tennessee 38101. You can also mail a check. Just make sure you use that same P.O. Box number, P.O. Box 683, Memphis, Tennessee 38101, and make sure the check is made out to COR or Church of the River. And you can always text your contribution. Text your contribution to 901-350-2686. And finally, one way that's a little bit secret is you can always slip a check underneath Reverend Sam's door.
Our first reading comes to us from the Gospel according to Luke, chapter 21, verses 1 through 4. He looked up and saw rich people putting their gifts into the treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. He said, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in all she had to live on."
Our second reading this morning is entitled "The Task of the Religious Community" by the Reverend Mark Morrison Reed. He writes, "The central task of the religious community is to unveil the bonds that bind each to all. There is a connectedness, a relationship discovered amid the particulars of our own lives and the lives of others. Once felt, it inspires us to act for justice. It is the church that assures us that we are not struggling for justice on our own, but as members of a larger community. The religious community is essential, for alone our vision is too narrow to see all that must be seen, and our strength too limited to do all that must be done. Together, our vision widens and our strength is renewed." Here ends the reading. Loving God, Spirit of life, draw near to us this morning and hear our prayer. We give thanks today for the bonds of community that hold us in more ways than we can know or name. We give thanks for those who rejoice with us in happy times and who weep with us in sadness. We give thanks for all those who have touched our hearts in ways they may never know. We are grateful this morning for the chance to be together, for laughter and for love, for a cool breeze on our faces, for cicadas in the evenings. We give thanks. For all these small miracles of life, we give thanks. We hurt with all those who are hurting, who are fearful and afraid right now, unsure of what each day will bring. We mourn with all those impacted by the fires in the western part of our country. Acres burn as we wonder, how long can this go on? And we wonder too about how to keep one another safe from harm. For all those who are feeling heavy-hearted, uncertain and depressed. For all those who are feeling angry and distracted. For all those who are feeling more than they can name this morning. May the love of this community envelop you and hold you close until we meet again. Amen.
I introduce our special guest musician this week, Tret Fury. Tret is a brilliant and accomplished Unitarian Universalist singer-songwriter who I have had the joy of seeing perform on a couple of occasions. And on one of those occasions recently, she managed to get her car stuck in a snowbank. And so I and a bunch of other UU ministers, we all jumped into the snowbank and shoved her car out of it for her and ruined our fancy shoes. And she said, "How can I ever repay you?" And I said, "Play a concert in Memphis." And that's not possible right now, though I do still hope to get her down to the Church of the River as soon as we can. But in the meantime, she has recorded this song that she is going to perform for us now as a special treat for our Canvas Sunday. So here is Tret Fury.
Dark the night, the new moon rising, far away from the light of day. And as I set sail for distant shores, the dazzling stars will light my way. But if clouds roll in and mask the North Star, and I am adrift upon the seas, my inner compass is what I have to get me to my better me, my better me. So many times I've rolled these waves, a pilgrim on my pilgrim quest, to find the heart of all that holds me and carry light within my breast. But sails will tear and masts will break, and I'll be lost upon the blue. But if I can hold my rudder strong, I'll ride the roll. My path is true, my path is true. Carry me, hold me steadfast on my journey. Loose my voice and it will carry. Carry me home. Secure the lines and hold the bow. I'm coming in for just a spell, to walk this earth a steady gait and break the solid from the swell. But soon again the new moon rises, far away from the light of day. And as I set sail for one more round, your dazzling eyes will light my way, will light my way. Carry me, hold me steadfast on my journey. Loose my voice and it will carry. Carry me home.
If you would like to contribute to our offertory this morning, now is your opportunity to do so. The offertory for the care and sustenance of this congregation and its work will now be graciously given and received. So we're going to be starting out this morning with a Bible story. And, do you realize we haven't done a Bible sermon in over a month, which I think is the longest I've ever gone. But here we are back in it, back in the Bible, and in the New Testament, no less. So in this story, Jesus and his bros are hanging out, and Jesus is philosophizing and opining and commenting on the world around them, and he points out the people who are giving their gifts to the treasury, their contributions to the temple, and he notices that some people are giving quite a lot. And then there's this one woman, a very poor widow, who's giving just a little bit, just 2 copper coins. But Jesus posits that her gift is worth more than everybody else's, because everybody else is giving out of their abundance, whereas this widow is giving out of the almost nothing that she has. It's kind of interesting that the copper coin that she gives, they're referred to as mites. The coin is, they call it a widow's mite, which is not the historical name of the coin that a woman in ancient Israel would have had. Mite was the name of a European coin that the readers of the King James Bible would have been more familiar with. So it's a widow's mite is not a biblical thing. I find these things interesting. The joke that my colleagues love to make is that this story is in the Bible mostly so that preachers have something to talk about on a pledge Sunday. Right, and we get to talk about how, you give what you can, and no gift is too small and all of that. And that's fine. That's not really what the story means. If you look at the context around it, Jesus is making more of a larger statement about the socioeconomic situation of the religious institutions of his time, but the traditional interpretation of the story does its job, and that job is not unimportant. But I'm interested in looking at this story from a different perspective. I'm wondering what happens if, instead of talking about this widow in the abstract, what happens if we try to look at the story from her perspective? What happens if this woman isn't just a number or a contribution or an idea, but is a person with a motivation and a story? Because this widow's situation in life is not a purely economic situation, right? We know by virtue of what she is called. She's called the widow. She is in this long line of women in the Bible who don't get to have first names. She's called the widow, so we know that she has suffered a loss, right? She is a person who is very familiar with grief and heartache. She is bereft not only economically, but she is also somebody who knows what it is to struggle emotionally and spiritually as well. I imagine her walking up to give her little gift, and she is exhausted. She's heartbroken. She's barely putting one foot in front of the other. And this is more interesting to me than how much she gives. It's just the fact that she gives it all. We've all had different experiences around money in our lives, right? So the widow's financial situation, that may or may not be one that we can relate to, but all of us have felt the way that she is feeling, right? We have all felt exhausted and heartbroken. We've all felt like there is nothing left for us. Jesus says she's given more than the rest of them. And I wonder if perhaps he isn't only talking about money. I wonder if he means spiritually and emotionally as well. This woman has given so much. She's worked so hard that to her, giving anything at all in any form is a truly momentous thing. And that's something that I think a lot of us can relate to right now, right? I mean, we are in the middle of a global pandemic, and there is renewed energy around the fight for justice for Black people and people of color who have been oppressed by police brutality and by systematic racism, and the response to that justice work has been oppressive in and of itself. The consequences of climate change are causing devastation all over the world. This is coming especially in this country in the forms of hurricanes and wildfires on the West Coast, right where I grew up. And the President of the United States is unabashedly lying and spewing hate every single day. And all of this is creating a massive global crisis that has been punishing to all of our mental and emotional well-being. In this moment, it's almost hard not to feel like that widow, to feel so exhausted, so bereft, like you have so little left to give. It's common to say that times like these bring out the best in some people and bring out the worst in other people, right? We think about bringing out the best in people. We think about, first responders and essential workers and basically everybody who got to be featured on Some Good News with John Krasinski. And we think about it bringing out the worst in people. We think about, people refusing to wear masks, people who are denying that COVID-19 is real, people who are spreading conspiracy theories. Like my wife met this woman at the dog park who was pretty sure that the cafeteria workers of Shelby County schools are going to sneak off and sell and profit from all of the school lunches that don't get picked up this year, which, three things about that. One, that is a horrible, ignorant thing to say. Two, that is positively ridiculous, right? Like, sell them to who? And for what, right? You just picture somebody, in dark glasses going, hey, you want to buy some applesauce cups? And three, if anybody is now in the position where buying or selling contraband cafeteria food is the thing that makes the most sense for them in their life right now, then just let them do it. Right? And thank God that you are not in that position. And maybe reflect a little bit about how completely and utterly our society has failed that person. But I wonder in general about this narrative that this situation brings out the best or the worst in people, right? Because I think either way that's problematically reductive. Because the truth is that this situation brings out the best and the worst in each of us. depending on the situation, and often just depending on the day, depending on the moment. I think all of us, when all is said and done, can say that this brought out the best and the worst in us, and we, generally speaking, landed somewhere in the middle, right? And we probably found ourselves on both extremes at some point. As human beings, we all have the capacity to do a huge amount of good, and we all have the capacity to cause a huge amount of harm. So at all times, but especially in a moment like this one, we cannot demand of ourselves that we be perfect all the time, nor can we just give ourselves over to being our worst selves and just say, forget it. The best way forward, I think, is to just do what we can with what we've got. In the story, we see this widow responding to the moment that she is in, and we see an example of her giving. We see an example of her letting her best self be front and center, and surely there have been moments when she has struggled. There have been moments when she has lashed out. There have been moments when the tragedy of her situation has just become too much for her, and she has said and done things that she is not proud of. But she is honored in this story because right now she's doing what she can when she can. And that is the real task of religious communities in this crisis. I don't like the idea of religious communities being places where we have to do it all right, or even where we have to do it all well. I'm also not interested in a place where we are all dirty, horrible sinners who can only be redeemed by forces that are out of our control. I am much more interested in the idea of religious communities as places where we do our best, where all of us traumatized, grieving, short-tempered people try to do and to give as best as we can and do our best to accept each other even in the midst of our limitations and our triumphs. And that's why we do this. That's why we have churches, and that is why we give and why we support those churches. When we are all so exhausted in all of the ways that we are right now, when we are all stumbling around feeling like we barely have 2 copper coins, 2 mites of emotional energy to give, our congregations tell us that we are capable of better than we currently are, and that our world is capable of better than it currently is. Right? If we do this right, then this community, the people of this community, the minister of this community, all of us, the message should not be to say that everything is terrible, nor should the message be that everything is just fine, nor should the message be that you are terrible or that you are perfect. The message of the church should be that the worst parts of who we are, the worst things that we have ever done, do not define us as people. And that the worst parts of the world do not mean that the world is a bad place. This is an era when our worlds are all getting smaller, right? We are, many of us, spending a lot of time stuck in our houses, still mostly only interacting with people who we choose to interact with, mostly seeing the world only through screens and seeing things on those screens that we've chosen to put on those screens. So the role of churches in this time is to try and expand our world as much as possible when so many crucial parts of our lives are getting more difficult, right? Like connection and communication and staying occupied. Our work as a church community is to make them easier. And when so many toxic habits are becoming all too easy, right, like being judgmental and making unfair assumptions and general malaise, then it is the role of the church to try and push those things a little further out of our reach. I gotta tell you, this has been a rough week for me. right? I feel like I've spent this whole pandemic trying really, really hard to be calm and assured and professional and pastoral. And like this was the week when I hit my wall, and which, I mean, I made it 6.5 months. I feel like that's not bad. But this week I was talking with Gigi Wishmeyer, the chair of our board at Church of the River. We were just, going over some basic administrative stuff, and I just kind of stopped the conversation halfway and I said, look, you don't need to take care of me or fix my problems because I am your minister and that is not your role in my life. But just like so that you have the information, I am trying to shepherd this church and get ready to be a parent while the world is both literally and figuratively burning. And this week, it's been catching up to me, and I'm having a hard time. Like, I feel like I barely have 2 copper mites to rub together of emotional or spiritual energy. And she said, well, of course. And she was so understanding and so kind. And I felt so liberated to know that my whole difficult, hurting self was a welcome presence. So then I got really into it, right? And I started telling everybody. I told Lisa and Chris about it. I told the young man at the Starbucks drive-thru about it. This is a crazy idea, but I even talked to my wife about it, and which was, that was really great. I was like, look, I'm having a hard time. And Sandra said, yes, you clearly are. I'm glad that we're finally having this conversation. And what I love about this church, what I love about all churches that are doing their work, but particularly this one, is that even as the minister, this is a church where I can bring my whole entire self. This is a church where all of who we all are, in our best moments and in our worst moments, is welcome. The thing that's always struck me about the story of the widow's mite, the thing that I can never get past is the question of why give at all? Right, this woman only has 2 coppers. Jesus says that's the money that she has to buy food. And look, if you are in a place where you are seriously choosing between supporting the Church of the River and buying food, by all means buy the food. We will even help you buy the food. But my theory about this woman is that she is choosing to give even in her circumstances because she wants to. She's giving because the religious institution that she is giving to has been there for her and has loved her in all of her bitterness, in all of her heartbreak, in all of her good and bad behavior. And giving to that place, taking a part of herself and leaving it in that place, is something that she believes in, so she does it. When we all look around us and so many things going on in our world and in our lives just hurt so badly, and it feels like there's nothing that we can do. And sometimes there really isn't a whole lot that we can do except vote. You should totally vote November 3rd. When we ourselves are so utterly fried that even if something could be done, we may not be able to do it, what can we do? The answer is that we do what people like us have always done. We do what we can, when we can. We love and care for the people around us who are doing what they can. We give what and how we can, and we carry each other through. Amen. Hey everybody. So we've managed to go this whole time doing these digital services without having to go back and add anything later. And now we are doing it twice in the same weekend. But I wanted to jump in at the end and say that, like many of you, I am heartbroken at the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I am terrified about what this might mean. But what I can also tell you is that the love of our community, the care of our community is strong enough to endure whatever comes our way. We are a people of hope. We are a people of love. We are a people of justice. We are a people of compassion. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, real change, enduring change, happens one step at a time. And we will continue to take those steps together, come what may. Now, go. Encounter the world at its ugliest until you find beauty. Go encounter the world at its cruelest until you find compassion. Go encounter yourself at your worst until you find that you are a beloved child of God. Go in peace, and amen.